Welcome, everyone, to today's episode of Dare to Age Well Now. I am very excited to be joined by my guest today, Dr. Joel Lindeman, and he is joining us all the way from Colorado. Shout out to the Rockies.
Yes,
Dr.
indeed.
Joel, would you be so kind as to introduce yourself? Tell
Sure.
us a little bit about yourself.
So my name is Dr. Joel Lindeman. I'm a chiropractor. I'm also a certified personal trainer. I don't really do that anymore, but I did that in the past. I've been a chiropractor since 2004. Had my own practice since 2009, um, and I just love what I do.
That's fantastic. I love when people's work is driven by a personal success and a personal passion. So often we hear that in chiropractors. Like, I have a friend of mine that was like, "No, I was 8 years old and I was going to die," except that he's from South Africa and my parents took me to a chiropractor. You have a slightly less dramatic story, but certainly an interesting story that kind of drives some of your passion for the therapy that we're going to talk about today. Tell us some great news you got at 35.
Okay, so two things actually first. The way I found chiropractic when I was younger, I was actually working for Children's Hospital and I had horrible migraines. I thought I wanted to be a surgeon. And I started getting adjusted and my migraines went away. So I said, I'm going to do what he does. So that's how I became a chiropractor. But at
Uh-huh.
35, I was actually told I needed a knee replacement. But they said, you're too young, so you should wait until you're around 60 or so because they don't last that long. In the meantime, just kind of do some PT, do chiropractic exercise. And I started looking into getting stem cell therapy. So I had stem cell injections and PRP, which is platelet-rich plasma. They take your blood, spin it down to get the platelets more, I guess, hungry, for lack of a better term, and put them back in to help heal the bone and the tissue. And that helps somewhat. But I really discovered SoftWave, which is a therapy that we've started using in our office by going to a friend of mine's office. And now I don't need a knee replacement. My knee's actually in great shape. I'm back at the gym and I'm running and doing all sorts of stuff. So that's how I actually discovered this technology.
So they just wanted you to do some exercises and good luck. You no big deal. Just stay in pain potentially for the next 25 years. Manage as best you can.
Oh yeah, and one doctor said when it gets to the point that you don't want to climb the steps at work anymore, then give us a call and we'll talk and we might do a knee replacement before that. And I was like, well, I'm never going to feel like I don't want to climb the steps because I love what I do, and I'm never going to let that happen. But yeah, they said basically just wait, just kind of deal with it. And when you're get to the point, and basically what I think they were getting at, not to be cynical, but when insurance will approve it, we'll get it done. And that's basically what they were looking into. And I didn't like that answer, so we did some of our own stuff.
Wait, we want to take control of our health and not just have insurance? Tell
Yeah,
us
exactly.
exactly how that we're supposed to run our lives and run our health. That's
Yeah.
so fun.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're
I
fine.
could get real cynical really
I
fast
understand
on
completely.
that. I think that is probably the driving force. There's a lot of reasons why I love this podcast, but some of them is because number one, president of Control Freaks Anonymous. So I'm all about, like, let's take some control of our life. I think women, we like to have some control. And so the ability to not wait on an insurance company or, oh, wait until the pain is too bad. I mean, that's just a quality of life issue from my perspective. And so let's slow down what you said. It's soft wave tissue regenerative technology.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes. Tell us a little bit about what that is and
So basically, the closest thing we can compare it to is an ultrasound, but it's kind of like a superpowered ultrasound. So basically, this
okay.
machine creates a shockwave, which sounds scary, but it's not like one flew over the cuckoo's nest shock therapy or anything like that. It creates a shockwave in the machine that travels through a device that looks like an ultrasound wand filled with water. And so the wave travels through the water, makes a clicking sound. It kind of sounds like a rubber band snapping. But what that does is it sends sound therapy into the tissues and it goes about the depth of a soup can, whereas ultrasound can go a lot less than that, maybe like the top of a soup can. But it'll go that deep and it vibrates the tissues, cells, and even the covering of the bone. What it tricks the body into thinking is that there's a brand new horrible injury because of the vibration of the tissues. It doesn't hurt. What I compare it to is kind of like if you had a toothache and you kind of bite on the tooth to kind of make it feel better, even though it's a little bit sore. That's the amount of pain that happens with this. But it vibrates the tissues. The body sends out signals saying, hey, we need some serious healing in this area because something major happened. And the body sends all the soldiers, for lack of a better way to describe it. So decreases inflammation, but the biggest thing that it does is it sends your body's own stem cells to the area and kind of helps it regenerate. Stem cells are a hot topic right now in medicine, and there's all different ways to do it, but this technology, just your body sends its own stem cells without any injections or anything like that, and it starts healing. So pretty cool stuff.
Well, and I'm glad you bring up stem cells because you first said that you did try stem cell injections.
I did.
And talk a little bit if somebody doesn't really like, oh, I've heard and seen some headlines, but like, tell us what is that supposed to do?
So basically, a stem cell is undifferentiated cells in your body that basically they can do all sorts of stuff. And wherever they go to the tissue, the body says, hey, here, do this. We need healing in this area. So they can change into what needs to be there. There's all different ways. Sometimes you can get stem cell injections from stem cells that are stored. Some people actually save their own stem cells from umbilical cord, and they can do that. The way that I had it done, they actually took stem cells from my hip, which did not feel good at all. It's a really, really big needle that goes into the iliac crest and pulls stem cells out of there. And then they inject it into the site that into my knee in that case. So, and it did help some, but not nearly as much as this. And it hurt. Like I said, that the injection didn't hurt that bad, but pulling it out, that's not something I ever wanted to do again, but it does have benefit. It does have, we have some patients that have benefited from that too. This is just a much less invasive way to do so and uses your own body to do it. So,
Yeah, and I'm forever intrigued by how when we get our body working in the way that it's supposed to work, it actually is kind of magical how its ability to heal itself. So I'd never heard that explained that it's simulating an injury. Sounds like well, I guess it's different. Never mind. I was going to say it sounds like, oh, you had a break and it didn't heal right, so you have to kind of re-break it to reset it.
similar, without the
But
break.
not that painful.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Without
Exactly.
pain, let's skip the surgery, let's skip all of those sorts of things. It does talk about tissue regeneration, so that's the knees, which is a pretty common
Yeah.
knee replacement. Feels like is it just that we're an aging population, or is it that it seems to be more common than it used to be?
Well, definitely both. I think honestly we're an aging population, but it's also I have so many patients that have had knee, shoulder, all sorts of replacements. One, I mean, advancement in technology has gotten to the point where it's much more prevalent to be like, oh, we can just give you a new shoulder now or a new knee. And this, honestly, knees are the most common that we see, but we treat it on low back, neck. We have a lot of auto accident patients that this happens to help the tissue regenerate right away. All sorts of things, wrists, things like that. But I do think replacements are just much more commonplace now because the technology is advanced and because it's an option that it didn't used to be. And like you just said, we are an aging population. That's the biggest demographic. There's research has shown that biggest demographic, I forget what the actual study was, but it's going to be the largest growing population is 90 to 100 as far as like
Yes.
yeah, which is awesome. But it's also like, whoa, we didn't plan on living that long. We better do some stuff so we feel good while we're living that way. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's so much about our society that is not prepared for the fastest growing. I think I was reading that too. The fastest growing demographic is not under 18.
Yeah.
It is actually 90 to 100, which is bonkers. Um,
But it used
a
to be the
little.
point where I remember my parents say, I never want to live that long. But now it's like, well, we should plan on it because we have the ability to do so. So we need to do things like you're saying. We got to be intentional about how we want to live our lives so that when we are older, we're living, feeling good and doing the things we want to do instead of just what we imagined what would be like, sitting in a chair and being sad. So we can do things now to stop that from being that way when we get to that point.
Yeah, I had a grandma that lived, and I'm trying to think. I was in elementary school when she passed, and she lived to be 101. And you're right, she sat in the corner and
Yeah.
rocked a
Yeah.
lot. And I compare that to a friend of mine, her grandma, at her 90th birthday party. We had everything from 14-year-olds to 40 and 50-year-olds to, she goes, oh, well, at church, they've put me in with the young people. They're like in their 60s and 70s. And I'm like, Grandma Doris, 60s and 70. Okay, you got the
Yeah.
young people,
Yeah.
and now at 97, she's lived a very active life. She was, in her 80s climbing soccer stairs and football games and all of that sort of stuff. And
Right.
it was just no big deal. Put
Yeah.
on a hearing aid and grab a cane to make sure she doesn't fall. And so I
Yeah.
think if you're going to live that long, I certainly do not want to just rock in the corner with
Yeah.
my quilt,
Exactly. Yeah.
then it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So, um, what are some other things that you do?
So first and foremost, the way that and it's also a lot of modern chiropractors treat is a lot, but more gentle. So honestly, we do what's called gentle specific prone, which means it's just that it's gentle, it's very specific, and you're on your stomach. I don't do a lot of the twisting and turning. So I can treat patients that are osteoporotic. I have some patients that actually have fusions in their spine that I can still treat because of the way that we adjust. I do acupuncture, but most of the time I don't use needles, which sounds kind of counterintuitive. But there's a needleless. I'll show you this thing. This little pen is a little electrical pen thing, and it's a needleless form of acupuncture. So electricity is what actually stimulates the acupuncture point without having to poke anything. And you don't feel it. I treat kids too. I treat newborns even. And we tell young ones when we treat them that we're looking for monkeys in their ears because we do some points in the ear and it makes a weird noise. So we can do a lot of gentle techniques that still get the body. I mean, you kind of alluded to it. Movement is life, right? So my goal is to keep everybody moving as long as they possibly can. And there's so many chiropractic PT. There's a lot of new ways that people are using less invasive and much more gentle techniques to keep you moving that you'll be able to you don't have to stop going, as you age and you get osteoporotic or anything like that. This will keep things moving gently and efficiently, and effectively. So
That's fantastic. Okay, needleless acupuncture. I'm in for unpacking this a little bit
sure.
more because we did an episode on acupuncture and it sounded it was pretty woo woo. So, but then you're like, I mean, I was like, okay, but anyway. So, talk about why someone would use acupuncture and what do you use that to treat, especially needleless acupuncture.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about that.
So in acupuncture, I mean, traditional acupuncture is needle, right? But there's a bunch of different ways you can actually stimulate an acupuncture point, and one of the main ways is electricity. So a lot of acupuncturists will actually put needles in the point and then add electricity to the point, real mild electrical current. This little pen, or there's other ways to do it that skip the needle part. So it's actually just electrical that stimulates the points. And it's hard to, it is kind of woo-woo, honestly. My undergrad is in sports medicine. My dad's a physicist, my mom's a nurse. So finding chiropractic wasn't on our radar either. And especially acupuncture, because I was like, I'm a very science-minded person. And I was like, that just doesn't make sense to me. I had some really good mentors and really good friends that got into acupuncture, and I started going to some of the seminars. And to be honest, the first couple times I went to seminars was just to get the CE credits. We had to take continuing education credits, and I was like, I'll check it out. And I started going and I started treating it, especially this way, because I don't want to poke people very often. So I started using this pen, and people got better faster with all sorts of different things. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll start using it. So I treat everybody with it. It only takes a couple seconds after I adjust them. But we treat a lot of it's musculoskeletal, low back pain, sciatica, that type of stuff. But there's some patients who treat for anxiety with it. There's the smoking cessation points in the ear and weight loss that are actually in there. And it's not like you do that and all of a sudden it's 1,000% better. I'm not going to say that that's the thing, but it's definitely a puzzle piece that I've added to my practice, and people get better with it. So that's why I use it. And you're not afraid of it because there's no needle, there's no poking. My wife hates needles, so there's no way else going to do that on her. So we just use a little electric pen and we can treat it on everybody. And again, there's over 2,000 something, diagnosis in the acupuncture textbooks that you can treat with acupuncture at different points. And a lot of them do not make sense. Like you said, a little woo-woo, like there's a point in your pinky toe on a pregnant woman that actually helps with a baby turning if they're breech, which we have no idea how that happens or why it happens, but it happens very consistently. And we're like, well, might as well keep doing it because there's no harm. You know what I mean? So I do treat a lot of pregnant women in my office too. And there's just a whole bunch of different techniques you can use to help the body do what it's supposed to do. So.
My husband is also pretty anti-needle, and we went in because we were taking, we got to the point where 1 Claritin every day year round during allergy season, 2 Claritins, and our chiropractor was like, no, stop that, get yourself in here. I think I bumped into him. And so we went in and they were like, oh, you really need some acupuncture. And my husband is like, But when you get so, you kind of get sick and tired of being sick
Yeah.
and tired, right? Like you get
Yeah.
so miserable that you're like, okay, fine, whatever. And it was
Sure.
traditional
Yeah.
with the needles,
Mm-hmm.
and so he's just like, I'm gonna close my eyes, and he didn't
Yeah.
really feel it. And 2 days later, dude was almost off of Claritin.
Yeah. It's pretty
And I
amazing.
was like, wait a
Yeah.
minute.
Yeah.
March my
Yeah.
little self back in. I'm like,
Yeah.
hook a sister up. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. They did a little bit of muscle testing and discovered that I actually had candida.
Yeah.
And we had to address the candida
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
And once we addressed the candida, allergies. I think I take Claritin like twice during the allergy season now. And it's like
Yeah.
real bad
Yeah.
pollen.
Sure.
So they were like, you don't need acupuncture. You actually have a different problem,
Yeah.
kiddo.
Yeah.
So I love that about chiropractic is that you can go and get, such a range of
Yeah.
things. It's like it's not just for backache, right? This I have back pain, and that is, I guess, traditionally what people think of.
Mm-hmm.
But just the ability to go and have lots of issues kind of addressed.
Yeah.
Okay, if somebody wanted to come and find you and learn about some of these very interesting techniques, where can they find you online?
So it's long, Lindeman Chiropractic. My first name, my last name is Lindeman, and then chiropractic.com is my office. But if you want to learn about SoftWave, it's actually just spelled like software, just put the V in instead of the R, so SoftWave. And then if you go online, it's just SoftWave TRT, and there's software providers in every state, honestly, and it's getting way more popular, so the odds are you'll find somebody close to you. I'd be honored to help if you're in my neck of the woods. And if you have any questions and you need me to refer you to somebody that I know doctors all across the United States that practice like I practice. There's amazing chiropractors all over. I just know this technique, especially for aging population, is great. I could find somebody for you. I'd be happy to do that. And if you just go to my website, you can shoot us an email and we'll find you somebody. So I also wrote a book, an author of a book called Purposely Positive, and kind of like what you alluded to, it's about being intentional with your life, and that's on Amazon. So I have a copy back here because a patient asked me to get it out for him today. And I forgot it was there, so I just
Oh,
saw it in the background. So did not place that, but it's there.
remember when I was saying I have some research and I was like, there was something my brain
Oh,
was
yeah.
offering
There
me,
you
and
go.
I had gone and looked at that on your Amazon. Okay. Um, Purposely Positive.
Yep.
I love that.
And it's just
Okay,
about
wait.
how to live an intentional and inspired life, kind of like what that's the tagline, is being intentional about our life and not just letting it happen to us. We got to create it. So, yeah.
That's fantastic.
Thank you.
This has been wonderful. My first book is called Be Freaking Awesome.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And my second book is Traveling Light, Free Yourself from the Crap in Your Head.
Okay.
So
Very
I think
cool.
we're probably in the same neck of the woods on
I'm sure.
Amazon.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
awesome.
will definitely check out your
Likewise, for
book.
sure.
And thank you so much for joining us today. Everyone, I appreciate you being here, and I hope that this has inspired you to dare to age well now.
Thank you.